Everybody, welcome back. Happy to be here with you this week. I'm headed out on a little adventure, little COVID safe road trip in my car. And so Misty and I have decided to pre-record some sessions and in case I don't have a good signal. So let's do that a few times. Let's take some nice deep breaths and just, if you're comfortable doing an audible sigh like I just did, just kind of arriving in your body in the present moment. So big deep breaths down into your belly and then an audible sigh or energy release as you breathe out. And then just start to move your face around. You hold a lot of tension in the mouth and in the jaw. So just kind of like move your face around, look around with your eyes, make some funny faces. Roll your shoulders. Do whatever your body wants to do to kind of arrive in the present moment. Maybe some gentle neck rolls. Maybe some of you feel like you need to stand up in order to really arrive in your body. If you're feeling disembodied or kind of flighty, ungrounded, I would suggest that you stand up and feel your feet on the ground. I'm kind of snuggled into a blanket here at my office, so I'm going to not stand up, but I welcome you to stand up. Reach your arms towards the ceiling. Do some wrist twisties. And for those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is Sarah Moore, and I'm a integrative and holistic psychiatrist here in town. But my well, I have many loves, but one of them is sitting with all of you and guiding meditation. So, and we meet every Wednesday at noon on Zoom, and someday we'll meet in person again at the beautiful Monona Terrace. Not soon enough. All right. So if you feel like you've come into your body, find either a seated position or you can stand to meditate if you're feeling sleepy. If your body is tired or you're feeling physically ill, you can lie down and just tune into how your body wants to be today. There are many styles of meditation where you have to sit in a certain way and it's very strict, and those forms have value, but it's not how I teach. So I would rather that you be really comfortable in your body and be listening to that inner teacher that you have that says, yeah, I don't really feel like meditating today, so I'm gonna just be gentle and easy, and I'm gonna lie down today or sit on the couch. So let yourself be at ease and find your most comfortable position today. If you're sitting on a chair or the couch, I would suggest that you either sit cross-legged with both of your feet up if that's accessible, or you can sit You can sit in anyway, but you could sit also, if you're going to sit with your feet down, try to have your legs uncrossed if both of your feet are going to be on the ground so that you can feel both feet solidly planted on the ground. Okay. And we're just going to start with some simple breathing exercises to begin to help our bodies and our minds arrive in the present moment. And this is a particular one that I've taught many, many times that will help you feel more grounded, feel less anxious, feel more calm. It's very calming for that fight, flight, freeze system that for many of us is very overactivated right now. So, what we're going to do is 1 to 2 breathing to start. And sometimes we do a breath hold, and we're not going to do that to begin with. So, you're going to breathe in. I'm going to count it out. And I'm going to do that for the first several breaths. And then if that is too long or it doesn't work with you, but your body, feel free to modify it. But the basic thing is the in breath is going to be about half as long as the out breath. So, that might look like a count of 3 on the in breath, and a count of 6 on the out breath, or 4 and 8, or 5 and 10, just depending on your breath length and what's comfortable. And in order to make the out breath last that long, because that is quite a long time, you are going to want to probably purse your lips to slow down the out breath. So it'll look like this. Some of you have heard of ujjayi breathing, where you kind of constrict the back of your throat, or your yeah, the back of your throat. And it kind of sounds like Darth Vader breathing. And so if you know how to do that and that's familiar to you and you want to do that instead of pursing your lips on the out breath, that's fine. And so that you may or may not be able to hear my breath, but it will sound or look like this. So in my head, I can hear this kind of loud whooshing noise on the out breath. All right. So I'll count out the first several breaths, and then I want you to find your own rhythm of approximately 1 to 2 breathing. We'll do that for the first few minutes, and then we'll just head right into the meditation. Many of you will want to close your eyes. Some of you may want to keep your eyes open if that feels more comfortable or safer, and that's totally fine. I would just suggest that once you're meditating, that you consider just allowing the eyes to be slightly downward cast, rather than necessarily looking at the screen. Because the idea with meditation, of course, is to be able to go inward to experience your own inner world, rather than being distracted by the outer world, of which the screen is one of those elements, of course. So as you find your posture, you're going to want to have a tall, upright, but not rigid spine if you're sitting. And we're going to take a in breath down into the belly. So you're imagining that you can breathe all the way down into your belly. And then breathing out. And then in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Big deep in breath. 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now on your own. Soften your mouth and your jaw. If the mind wanders, just keep coming back to the counting and the feeling of your breath. Soften your eyes. And then allowing your mind to just release the counting. If you're finding that your mind is really busy today and the counting really helps you and you want to keep doing it, then that's totally fine. And if it's more comfortable to go to one breath where you're breathing in for 3 or 4 and you're breathing out for 3 or 4, you can always do that if you want to stay with the counting. So just settling into a rhythm of your own breath and noticing where it's easiest to rest your awareness today. So for some of you, if we're using the breath as the focus of the awareness, maybe you feel the breath coming into the nose. So you're feeling it in the nasal passages or maybe even at the top of the nasal passage. Some of you may notice the breath flowing past the back of the throat. Some may notice the breath most acutely at the chest. So maybe you notice kind of in the chest, heart space area, you notice the breath coming into that area and stretching out the chest wall, and then the chest wall softening. And then there are some of us who may feel most drawn to being aware of the breath at the abdomen, at the belly, kind of right around the navel. And you want to tune into how, as you breathe in, the navel pushes outwards away from the spine. And as you breathe out, the belly button moves backwards towards the spine, retracting towards the spine. And if you're not sure where it's easiest to pay attention today, just sit with your breath for a little while and just kind of notice where your mind is naturally drawn. Kind of where the breath is the most obvious to you. Noticing if the face or jaw has tightened. For me, I will notice that again and again, that especially if I'm shifting an activity, a lot of times I'll check in and my jaw is tight again. So it's just this kind of like checking in with the body. Is there any place in the body, face, jaw, or otherwise, shoulders, abdomen, pelvis, buttocks? There are lots of areas where we just sort of habitually hold tension, and we can invite the body to soften and to release any muscular tension that really doesn't need to be there for us to be able to sit up. If you're noticing a lot of tension in the body, or it's just noticeable or bothersome, what you can do is you can, with each out breath, you can inwardly say the word soften to yourself. So it's kind of like an inward whisper, an inward invitation to your body. Very gentle, not a command. A very gentle invitation, like, it's okay, we can rest for a while. You don't have to tense against the world. It's a defense mechanism. It's a way that we protect. Becomes very habitual. Just seeing if you can tune into that and just very sweetly inviting your body to soften with each out breath, because the out breath is already a natural way of releasing. It's a letting go. That's what the out breath is. And so it can pair very nicely with the word soften, can pair very naturally with the awareness of letting go of muscular tension. So I'll be quiet for a while and just allow you to tune into your own body, tune into your own breath. And if the mind is really busy, not a problem. Even though I've been meditating for over 20 years, there are many, many days, probably more days than not, where I have a pretty busy mind. Some days really busy. So don't tell yourself the story that I can't meditate if I have a busy mind. It's a common story, common misconception. We all have busy minds. You can just allow your mind to be busy, and then the practice is coming back to the awareness of the breath and body. So, noticing the mind has swept us away into a story or whatever, and then just gently, kindly, without judgment, bringing our awareness back to the next breath and just starting over again each time. So let's sit together and notice our breathing and arrive just in the here and now, continuously releasing the future, continuously letting go of the past, and allowing ourselves to arrive in the only moment that we really have, which is right now. Noticing where your mind is, noticing where your awareness is, and coming back to the breath. And then noticing if there's any part of your experience, whether it's body sensations or a feeling, an emotion, that maybe you're subtly pushing away or naming as not allowed or not welcome. We do this all the time, and the mind naturally wants to move towards pleasant and it wants to push away what it deems unpleasant. And then it kind of gets spaced out with stuff that's neutral. So just noticing if there's anything in your awareness or experience of the right now that you're just not wanting to feel. Because we spend a lot of energy pushing away, and it's one way that we prevent ourselves from being fully present in the moment is by naming certain feelings or parts of ourselves as unacceptable or unallowed. So just seeing if you can gently open your hand up and imagine that you're just kind of letting go of some of that resistance and gently just turning towards whatever feeling you've been avoiding. And maybe that's not your experience today. Maybe you are not aware of anything that is being pushed away. But most of us, most of the time, are subtly avoiding or pushing something away. And so just seeing if you can allow it in to your experience. And it might be something really grabby that gets your mind going with a story, lots of thoughts. And so let's practice seeing if you can allow the thoughts to sort of be like in a cartoon, those bubbles above people's heads. Just kind of imagine that the thoughts are just kind of, they're not concrete. They're amorphous. They're not solid. And just see if you can just let the thoughts kind of float away in the thought bubble. And then continue to return to just the bodily sensations because that's really where the energy of things are at. And a lot of times we're creating a story because our mind wants to understand a certain feeling, but it blocks us from the direct experience of the feeling. And then the energy gets stuck and it can't move because we get into our heads about it and we create a big story. And a lot of times then we expand or exacerbate a feeling. So we'll heighten or intensify a feeling actually by retelling a story. Like you can imagine a time when you've been angry with somebody and your mind just wants to go over and over and over how you've been wronged or, you know, what you're going to say back or um, why this person is a bad person or whatever. And that's just very human. And so we don't have to judge that process, but I'm just introducing a different way of working with emotions. And that is to work with, or rather, even just be with, rather than working with, but being with the energy in the body of an emotion rather than getting caught up in the story. Because in my experience, when we can be with the energy in the body, and what I mean by that is, I mean feeling the emotion in the body. That's why it's called a feeling. That's why we use that word, because emotions are simply bodily sensations that we have given names to. And when we can drop the story and get into the body and feel a sensation, we will eventually come to realize that it has a lot less power than we thought it did. And most of us, for lots of reasons, usually dating back to childhood, are somewhat afraid of our emotions. And we were taught to shut them down, to repress them, to push them away. And we know now through studying the brain and studying human beings and psychology that pushing emotions away is not a fabulous long-term solution, and that those emotions get stored in the body and, for many people turn into actual physical illness. That's my belief system anyway. So it's a lot of words. So let's just tune back into you tune in to your bodily experience in the moment, and almost with like a gentle curiosity where you're not trying to push away, nor are you trying to kind of hunt things down. It's more so just like this open awareness of, huh, I wonder what's going on in there right now. And then you just sit back and you just observe. It's almost how we would maybe sit in nature, how we might imagining kind of a spring day of sitting on the edge of a meadow or sitting in a forest. And the forest or the meadow is like the landscape of our being, of our mind, of our consciousness. There's a lot going on in there. There's thoughts, there's body sensations, there's our senses, seeing, hearing, tasting, a lot of input. And like in a meadow, there's lots of butterflies and plants and animals and insects. So when we observe the landscape of our inner world, it's like sitting in, in a comfy chair and just being like, oh, huh, there was a twinge in my neck. And you're not even narrating it, you're just aware, but just because in order to explain it, I need to use language. You're just feeling into, maybe there's a tingling in your foot, or maybe there's a sense of a blockage or a holding or a tightness in your chest. And for some of you, if you're new to this, especially, it may help to name the sensation. It gives us a little bit of space, it gives us a little bit of distance, especially if we're new to this and we're really quite afraid of tuning into the body, which by the way is not unusual at all. Most of us have some level of like difficult experience that we might call trauma, or we might just call difficult experiences in childhood or adulthood. And so many of us have learned that the body might not be a safe place. But in my experience, that's really not true. It's just that we believe that and we're out of habit. And if the body feels like a very unsafe place to you, and the idea of tuning into it is just terrifying to you, then that may be a sign to you that, like, working with a therapist one on one, somebody specializing in a body centered technique, or somebody who specializes in trauma might be the way to go rather than forcing through it. But if you just notice a little bit of fear or a little bit of something, oftentimes leaning into whatever's here, and the breath can help us to do that. You can imagine breathing into a sensation. If it feels a little claustrophobic or too tight in there, you can breathe into the sensation. So let's practice that together. And again, if tuning into the body in a deeper way like this feels overwhelming to you, and you want to just stay with a concentration practice of noticing your breath, and that's what intuitively feels right for you, I will always encourage you to really listen to your own inner teacher above all else. So let's just take a minute or so to tune into the body as it is. We won't do it for a long time, but just see if you can lean into whatever's here, whatever sensations. Beautiful. Just wanted to give you a little taste of that more open awareness style practice where you're kind of letting whatever is here in rather than necessarily just focusing in on the breath. Usually it works well to do a concentration based practice like breathing and then move to a more open awareness once your mind is a little bit steadier. So I'm glad you could join me today, and I bow deeply to each one of you in your practice. And I'll just take a moment to dedicate the merit of our practice. May the fruits of our practice today, our collective energy that we've combined, may it spread outwards in all directions and help to end the suffering of all beings everywhere. I see the light in each one of you, and I'm so grateful that you took the time today to join us and go inward. It's it's these inward practices of getting in touch with ourselves and growing compassion and love for ourselves that are what is going to change the world one person at a time. So thank you.